All right, welcome back to Good Morning Vail. Joining us in the studio, we've got two of the team members from the Vail Fire Department. I've got Paul Cada with Wildfire Mitigation, you're the administrator there, and then also Mark Novak, the fire chief. Thanks for coming in, guys. And this is that time of the year we're seeing not a lot of moisture in the forecast. We didn't get a lot of snow, I mean, a fair amount of snow, but we're starting to see our river levels starting to dissipate. So we are going to be kind of moving into, if we're not already there, just fire issues, I think, wildfires. So let's start with you, Mark. So what you talk about on the weather reports, red flag warnings and things like that. Can you define that a little bit more and tell us what is that something we can experience here in Eagle County?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, in the last week, we had several days of red flag warnings.
Yeah.
And red flag warning is a little different than a fire restriction. A lot of people get a little confused. A red flag warning, excuse me, is specific to the weather that's happening that day. So typically, you have very high winds with very low humidity, so the opportunity for kind of explosive fire growth. The other time that we'd see a red flag warning is when we're going to have dry lightning. So we have a high probability of having a lot of fire starts in one day.
When you say dry lightning, that means there's no rain or anything in the forecast. Just
correct.
Lightning shows up.
Yep. Yeah. The worst kind of lightning you can have.
And that's pretty common.
It really depends on the weather pattern. Some years we'll have quite a bit of dry lightning. Some years we'll have pretty wet weather patterns where our lightning is accompanied by the monsoon rains.
Okay. Now, Paul, fire safety, camping, and people that are going to the backcountry. I know there's already some restrictions in place. Is that correct? Is that what people? What's the best thing for people to do?
Sure. So locally here around Vail and Avon, we don't have fire restrictions in place, but many other places in the state they are, particularly in the southwest part of the state. But like you mentioned with the red flag warnings, when we see days where we have those red flag warnings, those are those days. Even if you are camping, there's no fire restrictions. Those are those days where maybe think twice about having a fire out there. If you are going to have a fire in the backcountry, make sure that you're safe. Make sure that you have some water to put it out, and before you leave it, that it's dead out. Dead out.
So this is a little side story. A friend of mine was camping down in Moab a couple of weeks ago, and they had a fire at their campsite. They drowned it. They stirred it. They drowned it. They stirred it, and then she took the ashes, and they were cool when she touched them. Put them in a bag. Put them in the back of her car to get them out of there. When she was driving home, honestly. She looked in the back of her car, and there was a fire in the back of her pickup truck. Yeah. And it completely ruined her tent. So even when you think they're out, they may not be out. Is that correct? I mean, this is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as Paul mentioned, really, and it sounds like what she attempted to do, you want to stir them. So lots of water, stir them, keep stirring, and then really the only way to know they're out is you got to get your hands dirty and get them in the ashes.
And get down deep, right?
Down
Make
deep,
sure you're scooping from the bottom and really bringing it up.
Absolutely.
Because that heat can permeate down deep.
Yep.
How about if we're at our house having a cookout? I mean, any suggestions on doing that? Once again, you think that you're not susceptible to anything because you're at your house, but it's just as bad there, isn't it?
Yeah. Anytime that you use fire outside, use it responsibly, have something to put it out, keep the hose around a bucket, something like that. If you're going to have a fire in the backyard, it's best to have it in, some kind of fire pit that has like a screen on it for the embers. We've had a number of fires in the county over the years where people had, barbecue or fire in their backyard and, wind caught it and, bad things have happened.
And I've heard stories like an ember can be carried and can stay warm for a fair amount of time, longer than people think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that right?
That's correct. They can stay warm for days. And so really when you're in that backyard environment, whether it be a charcoal barbecue or the backyard fireplace, we call them, the ashes, when you're done, need to come out of that device, or the briquettes, whichever you're using. They need to go into a metal container with a metal lid, put water in there, stir it up, and then let it sit for at least 3 days before you do anything with it.
For 3 days?
Yeah, correct.
Before you go and dump it in a cardboard box and put it out near the side of the street, right?
Yep. Yeah, we've seen a number of fires, especially on decks, caused by improper disposal of ashes and briquettes.
And I think the best thing to tell people is if they're not sure about what to do, then just don't do it, right? Or they can get in touch with you guys, or they can go online and find more information. But it's volatile. It's a tricky situation. Until we start seeing regular rain like we used to have around here, it's going to continue to get worse over the summertime, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys can hang out a little bit longer for me?
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back to the guys from the Vail Fire Department, Paul and Mark. We have Epic Morning with Eric. We also have a look at that weather report for the weekend.